Here's my best Seth Rogen impression. Oh, look over there! There's Charlize Theron! Gross. What is up, everybody? Random Man here. My apologies in advance if I do sound a bit congested / nasally / stuffy, as I do feel a little sick, but it's nothing major, as I'm gonna power through this to bring you my review for Long Shot. Now, the plot to this romantic comedy basically follows Fred Flarsky, played by Seth Rogen, a recently unemployed journalist who runs into his childhood love interest / former babysitter, Charlotte Field, played by Charlize Theron, who is now the U.S. Secretary of State and is running for president. So when Charlotte offers Fred to be her speechwriter, Fred gladly accepts. Going into this movie, I had moderate expectations. This film did interest me a bit with the first trailer that I saw for it, especially with the unusual pairing of Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron together. But then my interest for this film grew even more after I heard strong buzz for it out of the South by Southwest Film Festival, where it premiered over a month ago, which got me to see it in the end. Starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Seth Rogen as Fred Flarsky, who is basically just Seth Rogen being Seth Rogen, which is far from a bad thing in my opinion. I really like this guy. The slacker stoner archetype that he has edged with his own personality in many movies in the past, I thought worked well here, especially given the chemistry he has between himself and Charlize Theron as Charlotte Field. Which brings me to Theron's performance, as she is also superb. As I mentioned earlier, Rogen and Theron are very much an odd couple type of pairing, as you have on the one hand Theron, this Oscar-winning high-caliber actress who I also think is one of the most gorgeous women alive. And then you have Seth Rogen, who again usually does his Seth Rogen type of shtick in many projects. But these two have delightful chemistry with one another. And to go back to Theron's performance for a bit, I thought that she was truly believable as this woman of a higher authority. The supporting cast of this film include the likes of O'Shea Jackson Jr., aka Ice Cube Jr., who is the best friend to Fred. I thought he was very funny here. He has a real knack for comedy, just like his dad. Bob Odenkirk plays the President of the United States that is also a former TV star who wants to ditch the presidency in favor of doing movies. Weird, right? I always enjoy seeing him. There's also June Diane Raphael and Ravi Patel as the two staffers that go along with Fred and Charlotte as soon as they start going around the world. I thought that they had their moments here and there. There's even Andy Serkis as the international media mogul who is the big reason why Fred recently became unemployed. He is a bit unrecognizable here under some prosthetic makeup. I had that part spoiled for me on Instagram since I do follow Serkis on there, but I was still able to recognize him with his voice, and I did forget that Serkis has done some comedy in the past, like playing the boss to Jennifer Garner's character in 13 Going on 30. Alexander Skarsgård also shows up as the Prime Minister of Canada, who takes a liking to Charlotte, and Randall Park even briefly shows up to play Fred's boss. Basically, I think everyone here within the cast does a solid job, but the real standouts are Rogen and Theron. The writing of this film by Dan Sterling and Liz Hanna very much sets it up to contain some of the same rom-com tropes that we have seen done in other movies from this genre, but like I've mentioned with the unusual pairing of Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron, it adds a new angle that I haven't seen done in a movie like this in quite a while. Plus, there is some political satire thrown in for good measure, given how Theron's character is the U.S. Secretary of State, and Rogen's character is very liberal in the way he writes. This melding of our leads' personalities does make for the comedy aspect of this romantic comedy, involving a lot of situational humor, which I found hysterical. The core of this film does involve Rogen's character being thrust into this world of politics for being the speechwriter to Theron's Secretary of State character, and even on Theron's character's end, she at one point wants to relax by popping a molly, and then something serious happens right after where she has to regain her composure. Part of it, I think, does have to do with the comedic timing of the actors and the direction by Jonathan Levine, whose past films I haven't seen. They include 50-50, which Seth Rogen also starred in, and Warm Bodies, but the way he was able to focus the narrative and balance out the romantic and comedic aspects of this movie do make me want to go back and watch some of his past films. And speaking of the romantic aspect of this film, that's when it leads the movie to be more tender and more small. Moving into some of the film's technical merits, I think that it is well shot overall, especially with the lighting. It is very on point in certain moments of the film where it takes us to some of the more lavish locations. I thought it was well edited from scene to scene, which also goes into the pacing. I thought for about 2 hours, this movie did run along at an efficient rate. I even dug the music, in particular the popular tracks that are used across the film's narrative. Visually and orally, this film is technically well made and gets the job done in that area. In terms of issues I have with this film, there isn't that much to knock it down for. There is one moment right before a key pivotal part of the movie that I did think was too ridiculous even by this movie's standards. When it did get far-fetched, I didn't like how that moment began, but I did like how it did end up before transitioning into the next sequence of the film. There's also the matter of this movie noticeably not being made on a big budget. I mean, this is a rom-com. Usually rom-coms aren't made on that much of a scale. But would it really have killed the filmmakers to rely less on some green or blue screen elements? And there's even one CGI helicopter that I noticed in a shot of this film that just looked downright awful. I also have to mention that your enjoyment of this film does depend on how you take rom-com tropes like the ones that are incorporated here, and even if you're able to tolerate Seth Rogen just being Seth Rogen in this film. But for me, as someone who is a sucker for a good rom-com, and someone who does enjoy Seth Rogen and what he does in a bunch of his films, I really enjoyed Long Shot. It's the performances and chemistry between Rogen and Theron, along with some of the refreshing takes it does with the rom-com archetype, that I think make this film worth watching and perfect for any date night if one wants to embark on one anytime soon. I definitely recommend it. My final verdict for Long Shot is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Long Shot. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.